India's union budget for the fiscal year 2026-27 was just presented on Sunday, February 1, 2026. This was a pretty historic moment, actually, because it marked a big break from tradition. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman gave the budget speech at 11 a.m. Indian Standard Time right there in Parliament. And get this, she became the first finance minister ever to present the national budget on a Sunday. Naturally, this whole event grabbed a ton of attention across India's economic and political circles. That's because of its unheard-of weekend timing and its major symbolic importance for how the nation handles its finances. But that's not all, the presentation also made history in another way. Sitharaman delivered her 9th consecutive budget, a feat no other finance minister in India's parliamentary history has ever achieved. She's actually been holding this position since May 31, 2019, making her the longest-serving finance minister in continuous office. Prime Minister Narendra Modi even chimed in, really emphasizing the budget's focus on women's empowerment and giving a shout-out to Sitharaman for her accomplishments. Now, the union budget itself is a huge deal economically. It basically sets the tone for everything, influencing investment decisions and economic planning across all sorts of sectors. That's because it lays out the government's spending plans, tax proposals, and key policy priorities for the financial year ahead. So, the strategic decisions made in this budget are really expected to shape India's economic path for the fiscal year kicking off on April 1, 2026. This year's presentation has definitely set a new procedural precedent, showing just how committed the government is to its fixed-date budget schedule, a system that kicked off back in 2017 even when it lands on a weekend. And get this, the financial markets, including the Bombay Stock Exchange, BSE, and the National Stock Exchange, NSE, actually held a special trading session on that Sunday, February 1, 2026. This was specifically to let investors react in real time to all those budget announcements. Alright, so the big talk of the town was presenting the budget on a Sunday. That was a pretty significant break from how things usually operate. Now, sure, we've had Saturday budgets in the past. Think 2025 and 2015, but a Sunday budget? That was totally unheard of. Get this. Back in 1999, February 28 also fell on a Sunday. But the finance minister at the time, Yashwant Sinha, actually delivered the budget a day early, just to avoid the weekend. This time, though, the government decided to go full steam ahead on Sunday. It really hammered home their commitment to that earlier budget date of February 1, a big change they brought in back in 2017. The whole point of this earlier date is to make sure all those budget proposals get properly discussed, approved, and actually put into action before the new financial year officially kicks off on April 1. That way, we can avoid all those annoying delays in getting projects funded and off the ground. Now, here's another interesting bit. The financial markets actually stayed open and buzzing during the budget speech. Both the BSE and NSE ran a special trading session, kicking off from 9 a.m. all the way to 3:30 p.m., even with a pre-open session thrown in. This meant the markets could react almost immediately to all those big fiscal announcements, which is a big departure from how things used to be. Before, those market reactions would often get pushed to the next working day. Diving into the government's financial roadmap for 2026-27, which was laid out in that budget speech, we're seeing some pretty significant targets for capital expenditure. They've actually bumped up that capital expenditure target to a hefty 12.2 lakh crore rupees for fiscal year 2027. That's a decent jump from the 11.2 lakh crore rupees we saw in the previous financial year. And this increased allocation? It's all about giving a major boost to infrastructure development and really getting that economic growth going. Alright, let's talk about the 2026 Union Budget. It's bringing in some pretty big changes, especially with this new Income Tax Act from 2025. Mark your calendars, because that kicks in on April 1, 2026. Now, this massive new law is all about updating India's direct tax system, making it way easier to follow the rules, and hopefully cutting down on those lengthy legal battles. It actually got signed into law back on August 21, 2025, which gives everyone, I'm talking individuals and businesses alike, a good few months to get ready for this new setup. Here's an interesting bit. Your income tax rates and brackets? They're staying put in this budget. But don't think nothing's happening. The finance minister did roll out a bunch of steps to make filing your taxes a whole lot simpler. Speaking of finances, there's a pretty significant change for the financial markets. The Securities Transaction Tax, or STT, on futures and options transactions, that's been bumped up. It's going from 0.02% to 0.05%. So, traders, pay attention. On the economic front, the budget's predicting that the fiscal deficit, basically, the government's spending more than it earns, will shrink a bit. They're looking at 4.3% of the GDP for the 2026-27 financial year, which is a tiny dip from the 4.4% we're expecting this current year. It just goes to show the government is still really focused on keeping its finances in check. Now, about the parliamentary side of things. The budget session officially kicked off on January 28, 2026, and it's set to wrap up on April 2, 2026. There's also a break planned from February 13th to March 9th. That gives those parliamentary committees a chance to really dig into what all the different ministries and government departments are asking for in terms of funding. This whole organized schedule is basically to make sure everything gets a proper once-over and a green light before the budget proposals become official. Okay, so this budget really zeroes in on some super important areas, basically telling us what India's big development goals and strategic priorities are. First up, infrastructure. The government's just announced plans for 7 brand new high-speed rail corridors, which will connect all the major cities and big economic hubs. We're talking routes like Mumbai-Pune, Pune-Hyderabad, Hyderabad-Bengaluru, Hyderabad-Chennai, Chennai-Bengaluru, Bengaluru-Varanasi, and Varanasi-Siliguri. This is a huge step, really showing they're serious about expanding India's high-speed rail network. The Defense Ministry also got a pretty big chunk of the budget, totally in line with India's security needs. And farmers? They're still getting a lot of support, with budget allocations and schemes like PM Kisan, all designed to really boost up the farming sector. When it comes to industry, we're seeing initiatives like the National Fiber Scheme for textiles, which is all about making our manufacturing more competitive. What's more, there's support for mineral-rich states like Odisha, Kerala, Andhra Pradesh, and Tamil Nadu to set up these dedicated, rare earth corridors. This is huge for boosting mining, processing, research, and manufacturing in what's really a super critical sector. The budget for the electronics components manufacturing scheme got a massive boost. We're talking 40,000 crore rupees, all to really beef up our homegrown electronics and semiconductor capabilities. And finally, the budget's also shining a light on some emerging sectors. Think medical tourism initiatives, and some dedicated funding for mental health services through places like NIMANS. Plus, there's still strong support for space research, with money going to ISRO. Okay, so the union budget? That's always one of India's most watched economic events. It really gives us a clear picture of what the government's economic game plan is and where they're looking to steer the country. This time, a big highlight was women's empowerment, something Prime Minister Modi really pushed. And get this, Finance Minister Sitharaman just delivered her 9th consecutive budget, setting a new record. That really shows us what's top on their policy list and how consistent the leadership has been. They even dropped the budget on a Sunday. That really signaled how determined they were to get funds and projects moving right at the start of the new fiscal year, no delays at all. Who knows, this might even set a new precedent for future budgets if February 1st happens to land on a weekend again. This smart move just goes to show how committed they are to getting things implemented on time. Now, what's in the budget itself? It's all about boosting big-ticket spending, investing in things that last, like roads and factories. They're also keen on strengthening manufacturing right here at home, pushing technology and infrastructure development, and, of course, keeping a tight lid on spending. These are all super crucial for keeping our economy growing strong. So, all these new initiatives, from building high-speed rail networks to supporting emerging industries and boosting social welfare programs, they're all designed to collectively push India's economic progress forward and meet the diverse needs of everyone living here. And the parliamentary calendar looks good too. With the budget session set to wrap up in early April, there's plenty of time for all the legislative processes to play out. That means these critical financial and policy measures should get up and running smoothly, no problem.